Hi dear students, welcome you all once again. Hope you all are fine and keeping well. We are in the final part of the discussion on autocorrelation. In the previous lecture, we had gone through the definitions and patterns of autocorrelation, the reasons for autocorrelation, the problems of estimation in the presence of autocorrelation, and the various tests for detecting autocorrelation. In this final session, our focus will be on discussing about various remedial measures that should be taken if we found autocorrelation in our data. The major reference text I used for this lecture is the Basic Econometrics written by Damodar Gujarati. Now, let us enter into the last session of our topic, that is, what measures should be taken when there is autocorrelation. If after applying one or more the diagnostic tests of autocorrelation, we find that there is autocorrelation, usually we have four options. First, try to find out the autocorrelation is pure autocorrelation and not the result of any misspecification of the model. Sometimes we observe patterns in residuals because the model is misspecified, that is, it has excluded some variables, or because of its functional form is incorrect. Please remember those things shared about this in the first part of this lecture. Second, if it is pure autocorrelation, one can use appropriate transformation of the original model so that in the transformed model we do not have the problem of pure autocorrelation. As in the case of heteroscedasticity, we will have to use some type of generalized least square method. Third, in large samples, we can use the Newey-West method to obtain standard errors of OLS estimators that are corrected for autocorrelation. This method is actually an extension of White's heteroscedasticity consistent standard errors method. And last, in some situations, we can continue to use OLS method even when there is the problem of autocorrelation. Knowing the consequences of autocorrelation, especially the lack of efficiency of OLS estimators, we may need to remedy the problem. The remedy depends on the knowledge one has about the nature of interdependence among the disturbances, that is, knowledge about the structure of autocorrelation. Consider a two variable regression model where yt is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 xt plus ut, and assume that the error term follows AR1 scheme, autoregressive order 1 scheme, namely ut equal to rho into ut minus 1 plus epsilon t, where rho is less than 1. Now we consider two cases, rho is known and rho is not known but has to be estimated. We discuss each cases separately. First, we have a case where rho is known. The autocorrelation coefficient is known. If the autocorrelation coefficient is known, the problem of autocorrelation can be easily solved. If yt is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 xt plus ut holds true at time t, it also holds true at time t minus 1. Hence, let's write the expression for t minus 1 period as yt minus 1 is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 x t minus 1 plus u t minus 1. Now we multiply this equation with rho on both sides. We obtain rho into yt minus 1 equal to rho into beta 1 plus rho into beta 2 into xt minus 1 plus rho into ut minus 1. Now this is the equation 3. Subtract this equation 3 from the first equation. We get yt minus rho yt minus 1 equal to beta 1 into 1 minus rho plus beta 2 into xt minus rho xt minus 1 plus epsilon t. Here we are subtracting a proportion, that is a rho proportion of the value of a variable in the previous time period from its value in the current time period, where we have epsilon t is equal to ut minus 1. We can express the above equation as y star t equal to beta 1 star plus beta 2 star x t star plus epsilon t. Now we have a transformed model where beta 1 star equal to beta 1 into 1 minus rho, yt star equal to yt minus rho yt minus 1, xt star equal to xt minus rho xt minus 1, and beta 2 star is equal to beta 2. Since the error term in yt star equal to beta 1 star plus beta 2 star xt star plus epsilon t, the error term is a epsilon t is a white noise which satisfies the usual OLS assumptions. We can apply OLS to this transformed dependent and independent variable, that is regress yt star on xt star and obtain estimators with all the optimum properties, namely blue characteristics. In effect, running this regression is identical to using GLS, generalized least square method, that is GLS is nothing but OLS applied to the transformed model that satisfied the classical assumptions. Here it involves regressing y on x, not in the original form but in the difference form, which is obtained by subtracting a proportion equal to rho of the value of a variable in the previous time period from its value in the current time period. In this differencing procedure, we lose one observation each from both dependent and independent variables, because the first observation has no antecedent, that is no previous observation to take the differencing. To avoid this loss of one observation, the first observation on y and x is transformed as y1 into root of 1 minus rho square and x1 into root of 1 minus rho square. This transformation is known as Price-Winston transformation, contributed by Sigbert Price and Christopher Winston in 1954. Generally, the method described above is difficult to implement because rho is rarely known in practice. Therefore, we need to find ways of estimating rho. Some of them can be discussed here. First method is the first difference method. Since rho lies between 0 and plus or minus 1, one could start from two extreme positions. At one extreme, one could assume that rho equal to 0. That is, there is no first order serial correlation. And at the other extreme, we could let that rho is equal to plus or minus 1. That is, perfect positive or negative correlation. As a matter of fact, when a regression is run, one generally assumes that there is no autocorrelation and then lets the Durbin, Watson or other test show whether this assumption is justified. If, however, rho equal to plus or minus 1, rho equal to plus 1, the generalized difference equation yt minus rho yt minus 1 equal to beta 1 into 1 minus rho plus beta 2 into xt minus rho xt minus 1 plus epsilon t reduces to the first difference equation, that is yt minus 1 equal to beta 2 into xt minus 1 plus ut minus 1. Or we can write in difference form, delta yt is equal to beta 2 delta xt plus epsilon t. where delta is the first difference operator introduced in. Since the error term in the above equation is free from first order serial correlation, to run the regression, that is delta yt equal to beta to delta xt plus epsilon t, all one has to do is to form the first differences of both the regressants and regressors and run the regression on these first differences. The first difference transformation may be appropriate if the coefficient of autocorrelation is very high, say in excess of 0.8, or the Durbin-Watson D is quite low. Madala has proposed a rule of thumb. Use the first difference form whenever D is less than R square. The first difference transformation may be appropriate is if rho is high or D is low. Strictly speaking, the first difference transformation is valid only if rho is equal to 1. There is a test called Barenblatt-Webb test to test the hypothesis that rho equal to 1. The test statistics obtained from this test is called G statistic, which is defined residual sum of squares of the first difference model divided by residual sum of squares of the original model, where UT are the OLS residual from the original regression or level form regression, epsilon t are the OLS residuals from the first difference regression. Keep in mind that there is no intercept in the first difference form. To test the significance of the G statistics, assuming that the level form regression, that is the original regression, contains the intercept term, we can use the Durbin-Watson tables. One major difference is that now the null hypothesis is rho equal to 1. In Durbin-Watson hypothesis, we have seen that the null hypothesis is rho equal to 0. If we cannot use the first difference transformation because rho is not sufficiently close to unity, then what should we do? We have an easy method of estimating it from the relationship between D and rho established as follows. That is, rho hat approximately equal to 1 minus D by 2. Thus, that is, cases involving reasonably large samples, we can obtain the rho from the above equation and use it to transform the data into the generalized difference equation. But the difference between rho and D given may not hold true in small samples. If the AR1 scheme, that is UT equal to rho UT minus 1 plus epsilon T is valid, a simple way to estimate rho is to regress the residuals U hat T on U hat T minus 1. For the U hat T are consistent estimators of the true UT, that is, we run the following regression U hat T equal to rho into U hat T minus 1 plus Vt, where U hat T are the residuals obtained from the original or level form regression and Vt are the error term of this regression. Since the rho estimated by this procedure is about the same as estimated by the Durbin-Watson D, the regression result using this rho should not be very different from those obtained from the rho estimated from the Durbin-Watson D. All the methods of estimating rho discussed here provide us with only a single estimate of rho. But there are the so-called iterative methods that estimate rho iteratively, that is, by successive and step-by-step approximation, starting with some initial value of rho. Among these methods, the following may be mentioned: the Cochran-Orkut iterative procedure, the Cochran-Orkut two-step procedure, Durbin two-step procedure, and Hildreth-Lewis scanning or search procedure. Among these, most popular is the Cochran-Orkut iterative method. Since these methods are beyond the scope of this lecture, we are not going to discuss about it right now. Let us conclude our discussion on the methods of estimating rule. For the testing procedure, by pointing out the following comments. First, since the OLS estimators are consistent despite autocorrelation, in large samples it makes little difference whether we estimate rho from Durbin-Watson D or from regression of the residuals in the current period on the residuals in the previous period, or from Cochran-Orkut iterative procedure, because they all provide consistent estimates of the true rho. Second, the various methods discussed above are basically two-step methods. In step 1, we obtain an estimate of unknown rho, and in step 2, we use that estimate to transform the variables to estimate the generalized difference equation, which is basically generalized least square method. But since we use rho hat instead of true rho, all these methods of estimation are known as in the literature as feasible GLS or FGLS or estimated GLS or EGLS methods. Third, it is important to note that whenever we use FGLS or EGLS method to investigate the parameters of transformed model, the estimated coefficients will not necessarily have the usual optimum properties of the classical model, such as blue properties, especially in small samples. Fourth, in using EGLS, that is estimated GLS models, if we do not include the first observation, not only the numerical values but also the efficiency of the estimators can be adversely affected, especially if the sample size is small and if the regressors are not strictly non-stochastic. Therefore, in small samples, it is important to keep the first observation using Price-Winston transformation. Of course, if the sample size is reasonably large, the estimated GLS with or without the first observation gives similar results. Fifth, instead of using the FGLS methods, we can still use OLS, but correct the standard errors for autocorrelation by a procedure developed by Newey and West. This is an extension of White's heteroscedasticity consistent standard errors. The corrected standard errors are known as heteroscedasticity and autocorrelation consistent HAC standard errors, or simply as Newey-West standard errors. The Newey-West procedure is strictly speaking valid in large samples and may not be appropriate in small samples. Hi dear students, we are now winding up our discussion on autocorrelation. Of course, there are ample scope for extending this discussion further, but we should confine ourselves to the syllabus. Hope you all enjoy the entire lecture series on autocorrelation. I request you to go through these PowerPoint lectures repeatedly to get clarity on the concepts. Thank you once again for your support.